little bit on the heavier side. It does weigh, I can't remember the specs offhand. I want to say something pretty close to 1.9 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty heavy for a pad nowadays.
Sure.
But at the same time, the extra insulation that it provides is huge. Plus, I think it inflates to 3.5 inches thick. And me
Sure.
being a side sleeper, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that I'm also a side sleeper, which is actually another reason I went with I brought the Thermarest pad as well, so I kind of doubled up. I doubled up for heat purposes and because the Thermarest just so simple to just toss on the back of your pack. It weighs nothing. But yeah, my pad weighs 24 ounces, so pound and a half. And it folds up to basically the size of a Nalgene. So it takes up a little bit of space, but for me, it was very worth having that space.
Yeah, if you sleep well, it's 100% worth it.
Yeah, and getting that sleep is so clutch out there because you're already going against everything. You're sleeping outside. You're not in a bed. You're obviously going, making things difficult. So make it a little bit easier if you can. So moving on now, we're gonna fly through the rest of these sections here of the gear, but pillow. I just had a little blow up Sea to Summit pillow. I know a lot of people don't use pillows. They will just use their clothes in a bag, which, a blow up pillow literally weighs nothing and takes up zero space. So I'd say bring both. And if you decide you don't like the pillow or it's not comfortable, just you have your bag, and that weighs grams.
Yep, and the Sea to Summit pillows also they tuck into the head portion of your mummy bag.
Yep. Totally.
So if you're like me, where you like to get in there, but actually sleep with your head out, so you're not breathing into your bag and creating condensation.
Sure.
It's perfect because you don't lose your pillow in the middle of the night.
Yes, and I found that to be so clutch. So clutch. Cool. There's the sleep setup. Time to get some Z's and go to sleep in the lean-to or in your tent or just out in the wild like a real cowboy. But let's move on now. So we're gonna move to a cookware. So now when you're out backpacking, you could just bring your simple food, or you could bring some stuff to cook. I think it's very worthwhile to invest in some cookware if you're going to be out there for more than just like a night here or a night there. But even if you are, I mean, it's also fun to be able to come back and actually have a real meal of some sort. So I had and I have an MSR pocket stove. I think it was like $60 or $70. I hear that you can get pretty much the same stove on Amazon from, a knockoff company for like $12. So do a little research if you want. That's what I had, as well as a pot from MSR, cooking pot. And then I had, of course, a plastic fork, knife, spoon, and one, a spork knife, however you want to call it, whatever it might actually be. And then I brought for my 3-night trip, I had 2 cans, and then for my 2-night trips, I just had the one. But they were 3.5 ounce Ollie Camp Rocket Fuel propane can, nice and small, perfect for the pocket stove. And all of my cookware fit inside my pot or my pan, whatever you want to call it. If they all fit inside, so super low profile, everything fit inside it, and the whole thing weighed 1.13 pounds. So for me, I found that to be very worthwhile having. It was great, and to be able to cook a hot meal at the end of a 20-mile day, super clutch, as opposed to like for me eating beef jerky or a cold bagel with peanut butter. I was really into having the cookware.
Yeah, that's a really great setup too. So I also use the MSR pocket stove. I actually use the Pocket Rocket 2. I picked it up when Gander Mountain was going out of business before they became Gander Outdoors. So it was on a super sale. I think I paid $20 for it.
Nice.
Which is worth every penny of. And I just, because they were available on sale, I picked up like an entire crate of MSR, like the little pocket sized fuel canisters. So I shouldn't be running out of those anytime in this lifetime.
Good to know. Good to know. I may need some. They're like $8 a can, so it's like, oh man,
yeah,
it's so expensive for these little things.
I think I ended up paying like $1.50 a can for like literally a milk crate for them. So
that's incredible.
That's them. So up until very recently, and if you happen to work for the DEC or if you're a ranger, please don't find me and write me a ticket for this. But up until very recently, I use the little Sammy lighter one or the bigger lighter one bear canister. So those are technically, to the best of my knowledge, still within regulations in the DEC, because they are rated to the whatever bear canister safety regulations have to be, the durability of the plastic. The way that they work though is the lid that holds the bear canister closed, but screws in with a couple bolts on each side, actually is the cook pot. So um, it makes it really convenient because you stick your stove and your canister and all your food in there, and then when you actually want to cook your food, you just take the lid off your bear canister and cook in that. That obviously presents a couple of problems. You're rolling the dice, first of all, because now you can't seal your bear canister because you're cooking with the lid. But on the other hand, you're saving a ton of weight and packing space because the lid is your bear canister. Or your cook pot is the bear canister lid, if that makes any sense. So that's one piece of really clever gear. I haven't used that in the last 2 seasons because somebody actually sent back a picture of one from the 80K. It was one of the larger ones because of the way that they're ridged on the outside. This bear figured out how to use the ridges as fulcrum and tear into the bear canister. So I just haven't used it because of that. Since then, I've gotten one of the standard. I don't remember what they're called. They're like the black generic bear canisters.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I've seen them a lot. Yeah,
right, from the High Peaks information. Everyone has them.
Yeah.
So I can squeeze everything into that. The cook pot, I've got like a knockoff brand titanium cook pot with a lid. The lid is very important. That I got from Amazon for like a few dollars. And the reason why the lid is important is because generally you're going to use it to boil water, right? So if you're going to use it like dehydrated food, or you're heating up pasta, or if you bring real food with you, or whatever the case may be, just simply throwing a lid on your pan makes you use like 75% less fuel because you're trapping the heat in.
Yep.
So
Totally.
on a longer trip, you can pack way fewer fuel canisters, which is going to save you more weight, more space.
Quite a bit too, because I mean, like, they're small, but they pack some weight to them. So if you can have 1 versus 3, I mean, that's a big weight difference.
Right, and the volume adds up fast too.
Sure. I mean, for me, it was really nice having everything fit inside the pot. Just boom. This is all my cooking stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, really nice and low profile and simple and easy to toss in the bag. It can just kind of go anywhere. It's obviously not going to get dinged up by anything in a backpack. Yeah, I was very happy with having that cookware. And again, you could shop around online. Amazon is obviously your friend in this scenario. But yeah, lots of options out there. And man, why didn't we come up with making the pot that's also the bear canister lid? Man,
it's a brilliant idea until it doesn't work.
Yeah,
so
of course.
like everything else, right? Everything in the world has ever been invented was a brilliant idea until the first time it fails and people realize it. So so to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been any situations where bears have just straight up just tore them apart. It's only a certain model that has that ridges on it, which supposedly has been corrected, but still, as someone else actually pointed out to me, well, what happens if a marmot or a bear comes into your camp and rifles through your stuff while you're turned around cooking? What are you going to do about that? And I was like, well, I guess I'm not eating it at that point. I'm probably just going to flee the campsite.
Yeah, so, there's other problems at that point.
Right. So there is that.
I also think the odds of that are pretty slim. At least around here, they might be different in other places, but I think around here the odds of that are. I'll roll the dice with that.
So far, that's what I've done, but I also stay away from places like you're not going to see me camping out near like Lake Colden Dam, where everybody camps and there's always bears around, or at Marcy Dam and places like that. If it's a bear hotspot, I'm not going to go anywhere near it because it's a bear hotspot because it's already a people hotspot.
Yeah, always lots of food, and in those areas, lots of food that are sometimes just in people's sleeping bags. Dude, when I hear people say that they just put their food in their sleeping bag, I just always think that is literally the exact opposite of what you should be doing. And the idea of waking up to a bear sniffing at your feet because your food is in your sleeping bag or in your pillow or under your pillow like a lot of people do, yikes.
Right. Or just what if your food leaks into your sleeping bag? Then you just have a whole nother bad situation. Like I don't want to wake up with peanut butter on my leg hair. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's literally my worst nightmare. The old peanut butter on the leg hair. Okay, cool. Well, speaking of peanut butter, let's talk food. Actually, before we move on to food, So on this trip, I hung all of my food I hung the bear bag at night. I didn't bring a bear canister. And the rule, as I've read and as I understand, having to have a bear canister for all overnights in the eastern high peaks, I believe was pushed to next year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know we talked about this. I believe it was pushed to 2021 to having to have it, but they're trying to get everyone to use them now. I just didn't have a bear canister, so I hung all of my food. And that's also the High Peaks Wilderness officially becomes the High Peaks, or the Eastern High Peaks, and that whole like rezoning changing to becoming the Central High Peaks and the High Peaks Wilderness Complex, as it's called. I believe that is also officially going to be now pushed to next year. Am I right in that assumption? Or am I right in my research, I should say?
Yeah, so that was supposed to be a 2020 thing, and they ended up pushing it back, and they're going to use 2020 as a second education year, and then make 2021 the beginning of the enforcement years. So along with that, just a side note, camping is also changing with that. So as of next year, when that rule comes into play with the bear canisters, there's no more stealth camping allowed in the Central High Peaks. So that's just something to keep in mind, that you're going to have to use a designated camp here desk, like camp at the camp here desk, and actually adhere to the size limitations and party limitations that go along with it. But anywho.
So if you are and last year, they were turning people away if they didn't have bear canisters and they were going overnight. But it was just like the prepping and getting people ready and aware of this. So it'll probably be the same thing happening this year, where that's what they're trying to enforce and trying to get people ready to do. So if you're hiking the Northville-Placid Trail, which I know a lot of people listening to this episode are probably considering that, half the route, or maybe like 40% of the route, is in the High Peaks Wilderness. So you will, as of next year, during that stretch, technically need to have a bear can. Is it all year, or is it between like April 1st and December 1st or something like that?
I know it's during the non-winter months. So it's excluding December 20th through March.
That's what it is.
The 21st to the 21st, but I'm not sure where exactly that falls. And the regulation has changed a couple times since they first introduced it. So whatever we're telling you listeners right now, check it again before you go out, because it probably will have changed again.
Totally. Just go to the DEC's website and you'll be able to figure it out from there. Or give Adirondack Mountain Club a call, and you ask them and they'll just tell you. They'll know. All right, but let's talk peanut butter on the leg hair now. Let's talk food. So for water, I did not opt to bring a bladder, just for weight and convenience purposes for filtering water constantly. If you're on the Northville-Placid Trail, there is so much water, so many rivers and streams to get water out of. It is never a problem. So I brought 2 Nalgene bottles for the first couple sections, and then I dropped the Nalgene bottles and replaced them with 2 1-liter Polar Seltzer bottles, because they weigh just nothing compared to a Nalgene bottle. It weighs nothing. I saved, I think, 1.5 pounds from just dropping the Nalgene bottles. So I do highly recommend that. And for a trip, those 1-liter Polar Seltzer bottles that you can get at a gas station or wherever, any 1-liter plastic bottle, they'll last just fine. And compared to the Nalgene, though, the weight is drastically different. Nalgene's a little bit overkill, I would say. And water abundant. And per Mr. Eric Schlimmer here on the Summit Sessions episode, I did not ever pump my backcountry water, except a couple times when I was at a lake. Lakes are a little different in my mind than nice fast flowing rivers. So if it was a nice river, I just scooped it straight out of the water, filled it up, drank it, no filtering, and then I would filter at the lakes. And I'm fine, never got sick. And Eric would have probably said that's exactly what would happen. So with that in mind, I'm going to go into the food that I brought on this trip, which is the same food that I eat personally when I'm hiking in the High Peaks or hiking anywhere. So I brought the same amount of food, just more of it, which involved